what we are going to do today is we're going to be discussing the interaction of glancing hits, multi-hits, and despair. Right? A lot of people have this idea that, despair can always land. It has, certain limitations to it. So the myth we're going to tackle today is that despair can land on glancing hits. So following a discussion on Island Grown's podcast this morning, which I'll have a link below for that, there was a claim that despair runes can proc on a glancing hit. And I called the otherwise. I said that my stance on it was that when a unit glances, it is unable to land a despair stun. So what we did was we tested it on my stream last night. We took a couple of Goodwill matches, played it out, and we tried to figure out what was going on, where that interaction really sits and stuff. So the first thing I want to do before we go into that, before I show the clips, I want to talk about attribute advantage and attribute disadvantage. So the first thing to note is that when attacking with disadvantage, the attacker gets 50% glancing hit chance. Also, the attacker's critical hit chance is reduced by 15%. Now, the reason this is important for me to state this last part is because in one of the clips, you see a glancing hit, you see no words, and then you see another glancing hit. So what that shows is that even though my Juno has a 100 crit rate, what happened was she had a glancing hit, she had a non-critical hit, and then another glancing hit. So I've slowed all the clips down to 0.25 seconds, and let's take a look at it. So in the first clip here, we have Juno, we have Rena, element disadvantage, obviously. So let's just start that up. So the first hit you see is a glancing hit, and then she takes a despair stun, and then you see a second glancing hit here. So from what we could deduce from this is basically it glanced, it didn't crit, and then it glanced. So a little bit surprising. We weren't quite sure how multi-hits worked in the interaction. So what we know from here is, with the new hypothesis, is that if you glance, you can despair stun on subsequent non-glancing hits, which means if my Juno hits 3 times, glances the first and the second one, if she crits or doesn't crit but doesn't glance on the third hit, she can proc despair. So let's just quickly watch that again, and we'll see that just at 0.25 speed. So the first hit is a glancing hit, then the despair stun, and then the glancing hit for third. All right, so let's move on to the second clip. And I'll also put a link to the VOD if you guys want to see the whole length of it. I'll timestamp it and everything so you can just take a look. Oh, one moment. Let me full screen that. All right, here we go. So the first hit is a critical glancing. So she stunned on the first hit because it wasn't a glance. All right, and the third clip. So she crits, glances, and then doesn't crit on the last hit. So far, every single stun has been a non-glancing hit, where the first clip, what happened was it was glancing and then a non-glancing and then a glancing. So this is the fourth and final clip with multi-hit interaction. So as you can see, the first hit, I believe, stunned. The first hit crit and stunned. The second hit crit, and the third hit did not crit. No glancing, but so it did land. So the thing we wanted to test at this, what we learned, obviously, we learned that multi-hits do have an interaction, right? If you glance and you multi-hit, you are able to despair on subsequent hits. So what we did was we tried it with my Hraes. We wanted to see what the interaction was with skill 1. In this clip, I actually stupidly used skill 3, as it is a multi-hit, to clear the trash. But you can see that the despair stun hit on the Kumar is a non-glancing hit. So the first hit here stuns because it doesn't glance. And then in this clip, we actually have 2 stuns. So skill 1 goes in for the stun. So not a glancing hit, and there's the stun. Then we have another attack that also doesn't glance and stuns. And if we go further down here, we get one more attack that glances. Oh, I lied. It doesn't glance. Yeah. So from what we found, obviously the amount of testing is pretty low. We only spent maybe 20 minutes at it. But from what we can see, the myth is not true. The myth is not true. So our findings conclude that despair cannot land on a glancing hit. However, that there is an interaction with multi-hits involving subsequent non-glancing hits landing the despair stun. And that's pretty much all we have for today on Summoners or Myths. So if you guys have any other myths you want tested or talked about, leave a like and a comment below, or just catch me on my stream. Thanks.